Hello and welcome to another episode of Testimony Tuesday. If you're a new listener, every Monday we post a sermon from our senior pastor, Pastor Rick Martinez. And each Friday we'll be posting a sermon from somewhere in our fellowship. We are the Ogden Potter's House podcast. Each month we post a testimony, and in this episode I sit down and have a conversation with one of the most notable and very, very intriguing disciples. He's a good friend. He's a good conversation person. He's worked with so many people and done so much throughout the years. And we kind of dive into that in our conversation. We talk about his life prior to salvation. We talk about little character adjustments that he made in his discipleship, and even things like going viral in the fellowship, and just little staples in time that Derrick has had throughout his testimony. So sit back and enjoy Derrick Vernon's testimony. But you're well known, from what I've seen. A lot of people know you in the fellowship. A lot of people know you in the Ogden wing of the fellowship. You're close friends with everybody in all the churches, and everybody has heard bits and pieces of your testimony. I've known you ever since I was a little kid, but I just wanted to get the full story from you. The whole concept of this podcast is to hear the full story that we don't always get to hear over the pulpit or when you're ministering. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and how long you been saved?
So I'm originally from California. I was raised in Lancaster, California, and I've been saved for 17 years. Had my ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing. Growing up was pretty rough. It was kind of rough, being raised in a broken home. My mom was on drugs. She was on crack cocaine. My dad was on crack cocaine. He was around when I was like 5, but off and on. We have a great relationship now, but in the beginning, he wasn't around. My mom wouldn't let me around him or that side of the family. So I was really raised on my mom's side, where there was drugs all over the home. There was crack addicts. My mom was always out doing her thing. She would leave us home, being little. I remember being just the age of 9 years old, 10 years old, being left at home for like 3 days, me and my brothers and sisters, and my mom would be out doing her thing for about 3 days. She'd come back. We always had food on the table. And, just growing up, seeing these things, seeing all this stuff around me, and it began to mold me and made me something that I never imagined of being, and that's being a young man with no direction. And, just, seeing it all, my aunties, them on crack cocaine, seeing violent gang members, my cousins. And I remember one year my mom, she got locked up in jail, and we ended up in a foster home for a year. And I remember me, my brother, my sister, and I just told them just keep my brother, my sisters together, so nothing happened to them. And I remember being in this foster home, and just the people that were there, they treated me with love and respect. They cared for me, but I didn't care if that wasn't my mother, So I had so much anger in me. I was fighting foster home kids, beating them up, fighting them, going to school, causing a ruckus. And that whole year I just felt lonely, broken, like no one wanted me. My mom abandoned me, and just living with that, a little kid, living with that anger inside, living with that guilt, and that feeling of being, rejected, basically.
Yeah.
And that carried on in my life, and I was going to school, and even going to school, I always had straight A's before I got to high school. Had straight A's. I was great in basketball, sports. I was just a athlete, a star athlete, but I kind of veer off a little bit, trying to balance, that street life. I end up hanging out with my cousin, claiming a clique, like a gang like a gang, but really I wasn't too deep in it. I just did it because they did it, you know, get into fights and stuff. And that's about time I was age 13, I was already smoking weed, drinking and stuff, partying, and I was already acting a fool. I was already messing around, sleeping around, and, you know, just living a life of brokenness and just no direction. Everybody around me, whether they was on crack, whether they was selling it or they was in gangs and stuff, and that's all I seen. And really didn't have no direction, you know. And I was raised in church. You know, most people don't know that, but I was raised in church as a little boy. I used to go to a church called Church of God in Christ. It was in Little Rock, California. And just raised in church, you know, hearing the gospel, hearing the preaching, but never changing me. I never was really converted. But I can tell you one thing is that there was something that was put in me from my grandparents. But I end up still living in sin, still out there stealing. I was doing home invasions, smoking, drinking, fighting. I was doing all these things to fill that void that was inside of me. And just going to church and then seeing your parents and seeing your cousins and them in a choir, you know, praising Jesus. But when they get home, my mom, them on drugs, drinking and smoking, it was no change. I didn't see anything that was real, you know. It was like God was being mocked through their lives, you know, and that's what I seen, the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And just seeing that, you know, and I always thought like, dang, I'm gonna keep myself pure, you know. I'm gonna stay away from girls and stuff. And my cousin them can testify to this. I said I would never cuss, you know, but then as time fly, man, I start sinking in sin and then just get into a lot of stuff, getting deeper and deeper. And you know, growing up in a broken home, man, it could do something to you, you know, and it bled, you know. I had suicidal thoughts. I had so much confusion and stuff. And it was till Jesus came into my life, you know.
So this was all in California, right?
Yep. So
that's part of your life?
Yep.
So when did you move to the state of Utah? Like, what was the reasoning? Do you remember?
Yeah. So what happened, I was young. I was still a teenager. My mom had an uncle. I mean, not an uncle, but she had a brother. My uncle, Elvis, he moved out here years ago. And my mom I guess she just decided, you know, we're going to go to Utah, just a better living, you know, better chance for us, because we was already acting a fool, and I didn't want to go. I told her I'm not going. I'm staying with my uncle. But I ended up going anyway. And I remember in 2006, I came out here. In 2006 is when we moved out here. It was during winter. And I remember coming out here. It was so different. And I remember my first week living out here in Utah. What I did was get dressed. And I start walking down the street. And I hear some music. And I end up going to this party. First week out here in Utah.
Already, yeah.
Yep. Went to a party. Start chilling. I told the people there, knocked on the door. It was a guy named Sergio. He's from Ben Lomond High School. Most people might know him, but Sergio. And he asked my name. I'm like, my name is Derrick, you know. Oh, woo from, you know, California and stuff. So I go in there and I'm chilling. I'm drinking, smoking. And I go upstairs and I'm just sitting there. And it was normal, you know. I just loved that party scene. I didn't know. I was far from the gospel. And I started getting into a relationship. I was talking to a girl. I ain't gonna say her name. I'm gonna keep her unknown. But talking to this girl and stuff. And we just started chilling and stuff. And one thing led to another. I left. And then I went home. And then I enrolled in school. And all those people that I seen at the party went to my school. So I became, you know, they were my friends and stuff. They accepted me, you know what I mean? And it kind of got a little popular, a little kind of quick. So start talking to them, start chilling, start putting my feet in the street a little bit, you know. I start drinking, start partying a lot. I started going around my cousins. My cousin them lived out here, and they had this little money clique, you know. They would make money, they would sell dope, and they would cook up crack and dope and stuff, and I'd be over there right in the middle. I didn't smoke none or nothing or sold anything, but just to be around that, I felt like I was
a part of something?
Yeah, part of something that was accept me for who I am and stuff, and my family. It was just, that's all I knew, you know?
Yeah.
But it's crazy though, because I remember just digging my foot in sin deeper and deeper, but I didn't get too much deeper because I didn't know that Jesus Christ had a plan for me, and He's about to interrupt my whole life.
Everything's about to change.
Yep,
So
everything's about to change.
my next question is, when did you have that first encounter with the gospel? Do you remember the day or the story?
Yeah, so, but not like in California, but in Utah, right?
Yeah,
with the
like
Potter House.
Like after you moved to Utah, and you're just living your life, and like how you said, God was about to do something. What was that first little experience that you had with, the gospel being preached to you?
Yeah, so this is the story. So I knew my uncle Sabu went to a church, and I knew he did Bible studies with Pastor Bart, and he went to some of their little home Bible studies, but he backslid. But I knew he went to a church, and it's crazy. I lived right behind the church on Kershaw Street, and I remember walking to the church. I just smoked weed. And I was high as a kite, but I remember walking through those doors, and this was, my hair was long down my neck, and I remember walking in church, and I had people greeting me and stuff, and that I was like, it was confusing because I knew I smelled like weed, and I was like, come on now, I know y'all smell this. This is some good, I was like, this is some good stuff. I know y'all smell this, but no one judged me or anything. And I remember just walking up, and Fino Brown, he walked up to me and he was like, hey, what's your name? I'm like, oh, my name Derrick. And he was like, oh, okay, I'm going to call you D-Block. And then from that day forward, D-Block stuck.
The rest is history.
And the rest is history. Fino gave me that name. And I remember walking in my seat like, man, this dude's weird. But I thought he was a player because he got all these girls hugging him. And I'm all like, what the heck? So come to find out, they just his sisters, I'm like, man, this dude's a player. But even when I went in there, man, my mind was so lost. I was already like looking at certain names of certain girls. I was already getting the list together, like, okay, I'm gonna hit her up. And so my mindset was already, But I remember sitting in those pews, man, just hearing the gospel for the first time. But this time it was so different because it was so clear, and it was like I was the only one sitting in there. And I remember these words, man. He was like, I think it was Pastor Martinez. He said, there's people in here, you're broken, you lost, and Jesus Christ can forgive you. And then those words, Jesus Christ can forgive you, they sunk so deep in my soul, man. There was something that was about those words that he said. And then I'm there, and I'm weeping at this moment. I'm crying. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Mind you, I don't cry, either a funeral, and that's it. Either a funeral. I cry, nothing makes me cry. But I remember sitting there, I'm bawling, man. I'm like, what the heck? I can't stop these tears. And it was Ruben Ortiz was next to me. He was like, brother, that's God on you. He like, that's God on you. I'm like, no, that's not God, man. No, Jesus can't forgive me, man. I done too much. That's my word. I done too much. He was like, no, man, that's God. And I remember those words that the pastor said. He was like, Jesus can't forgive you. And he did an altar call. I never heard of an altar call. I didn't know it was such thing. And he said, is there people in here, you're broken, you're lost, you want to accept Jesus Christ right now? Just raise your hand. I raised my hand up so fast. Didn't even know what I was doing. I just knew, like, God, that's me. And I remember saying that prayer. Ruben took me up to the altar, saying that sinner's prayer. And God, he set me free. But it didn't end there. See, when I said that prayer, I felt like there was something that was lifted. So after that service, I went home, and I went in a restroom to, I told my mom, I ran to my mom, I think I'm saved. I didn't know what was going on. I think I'm saved. And she was like, boy, go to bed. Get ready for school tomorrow. So I go to bed, and then I'm looking in the ceiling. I remember this. I looking in the ceiling. I was like, dang, am I saved? Am I really saved? And I went to sleep. Next day, I'm walking to school. This one I used to go to Washington High School because I got kicked out of Ogden for fighting. So now I'm going to the Ogden, Washington High School, George Washington High School.
Yeah.
When it was on 21st Street. So I'm walking there, and it's weird. I'm walking on one side of the street, and I see some girls, you know, pretty, beautiful girls. And I see them, and I'm like, oh, shoot, you know, because I was one where I'm gonna go after them and stuff. But this time, it was weird. I jumped across the street so I don't look at them or anything. So I went across the street, and then I went to school. And then after school, I did exactly what I usually do. I go to my homie Carvin house. After school, we go smoke a blunt or drink. So I go, and the blunt get around. I'm like, nah, not today, man. I don't feel like smoking, you know. Normal day, you know. Nah, I'm good. Not today. So I go home, go to sleep, go to school again, do the same thing. And they're drinking and stuff. But I don't want to drink. So it dawned on me. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I don't want to smoke no more. I don't want to drink. So something was wrong. I don't know what it was. I'm like, oh, crap. So I dipped out of there, bro. Went home, and I grabbed I kid you not, I grabbed a razor, and I kind of cut my finger. Because I needed to make sure, is this real? I remember cutting my finger, and I was like, dang, this is crazy. I guess it's real.
Yeah.
You know, but the only thing that I was holding on to, too, was my Tupac. That took time, you know, my Tupac music. And I remember, man, just getting saved, man, making stands, like telling the girls, women, because I had a lot of girls, you know. I think because when you're in another state, girls are attracted to guys that are in another state and stuff. And then just going to the church and stuff, and then there was a girl that went to the church, you know. She kind of grabbed my attention, you know. She was beautiful, a girl that went to the church. So that kind of kept me really going, you know. But then God began to do something in me and mold me and stuff. And then that's when that change began, when I kept going and going, hearing the preaching of the gospel, you know.
Yeah, that's perfect, because that leads into my next question, which was, you know, you're coming, you know, and it's starting to click. Do you remember any like defining moments when you knew that you wanted to expand as a Christian, you wanted to do more? Like, what was that like? You know, like, can you kind of explain those defining moments of discipleship? You know, whether it have been like revivals or conference or.
Okay, so I remember. So it was a underground. They was called Underground before 180 concert. So it was an underground, and I'm sitting there.
That's crazy. I remember that.
Yep, hearing the music. Yep, hearing the music, hearing the testimonies. And I remember Pastor Bart getting up, preaching. And I don't know what this had anything to do with his altar call, but he was like, man, we got guys nowadays with long hair, earrings, looking like girls. At that moment, I had 4 earrings, had my long hair. So I was thinking, like, that's me. What the heck? You know, that got to do anything got to do about Jesus? But I remember him saying that, and then I went home. That's when I cut my hair, and that's when I got rid of my earrings. And that was a defining moment. And then if you move on, I remember when was this? It was when street preaching. I didn't know what that was. I remember we called it street preach. And I'm hearing everybody. This was when we was on 12th Street a long time ago. And they was street preaching and stuff. Everybody going like, oh, that's cool, yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just like, yeah, go, you know?
Yeah.
And Pastor Bart was like, you're next. I'm like, what? No. I'm like, what the heck? No. What I do? What is this? And I remember getting the bullhorn. I was like, Jesus can save you. And then that was it. Boy. And then the next one, I was stuttering like, God, Jesus, he loves you. I promise you, just give, you know. And man, from that day forward, man, that boldness, that confidence, like, dang, if I'm not ashamed to be on the street preaching to everybody that probably know me, like, oh, I know that kid, you know, but preaching Jesus, you know what I mean? There's no way I could be bold to witness to somebody and stuff. And that was a defining moment in my life.
That's good. So would you say, you know, Pastor Bart's influence in his ministry was something that really was an example to you, you know, like you were like maybe like a disciple under him?
Yep. Pastor Bart, he played a big part. And I didn't realize it until now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Till now.
Yeah, till
just
me,
now.
Yeah, me cutting my hair and dang, that's crazy. Yeah, me cutting my hair and getting rid of my earring was Pastor Bart. First time ever street preaching was Pastor Bar. He challenged me. I did it. But the one that kept me serving God the most, that influenced my life was Fino. Every day he did everything. We did everything together. I'm telling you, even Bear was like, "Oh man, you stealing my son from me." But that was the bond we had. We loved each other, man. Just that relationship that God built, that relationship in the kingdom of God, and he kept me fellowshipping and stuff, kept me, because I didn't fellowship for like 5 months because I thought at the fellowship, I thought they was too good for me. So I got this mindset like, oh, they're too good for me, And he would invite me. And I remember Fino invited me to one fellowship, and I actually went. And I'm going, I think it was Mark Arthur. He invited me to that fellowship, and I'm there, and they're playing dominoes. I'm like, what the heck? They're playing dominoes in spades,
Yeah.
You play that in jail. I never been to jail, though, then. But you play that in jail, or, you're a thug or a gangster. But they're playing this. I'm like, oh, shoot, this is tight. And then free food. I was like, oh, yeah, I was in there. And from that day forward, man, I never stopped fellowshipping. Yeah. Because the food was huge. But if it wasn't for Fino, staying with me, sticking with me, because I had so much baggage from the past that was still holding me down and stuff. And I still had some insecurities. And, I was still feeling that rejection. But him accepting for who I am, and then we became best friends. It kept me, going,
Yeah, it just goes to show how important and how vital fellowship is, and follow up, and just connecting yourself with community and being a part of the church. My next question is, what's some advice that you would give to somebody who is maybe in your shoes of that point, they're maybe a young kid, or somebody who's just coming into the church, and they're coming, but they're still dabbling with things, and it hasn't really clicked with them. They haven't made the decision to want to be discipled or want to fully commit to serving God. What would you say to them? Like,
I would say, I got a lot of words from Pastor Chris Hart. I remember he told me, he was like, you've been through some things that most people can't go through. And then I remember him saying, you just won't quit. You just won't quit. My advice for them is just to don't quit. Because a lot of times you go through so much, and right when you quit, that's where God's going to bring that breakthrough or that healing that you need. So if you quit, then that means you literally just detonated everything that God was going to do. So when you decide to quit, you detonated everything God was going to do, the blessing, everything. But when you don't quit, it's like, yeah, you're going through it and stuff, but you know that you're still with God. And I would tell them, in and out, just make a decision, surrender your heart. Because if you're like, when pastors talks about being double-minded, it's true. I've been, a lot of my salvation, I was double-minded, a lot of decisions and stuff. But the consequences are playing out, But when you come to that place where, like, dang, I gotta have a single mind, and when you totally surrender to God, that's when He begin to heal your life and heal your mind and your spirit. Maybe not like someone else, because sometimes we think, our healings is like someone else. Like, okay, God moving that person's life in that way, or He did that. No, God want to do something in your life. Your conversion, you totally surrendering will lead you to a different road than what it might lead somebody else to. And my advice for them is don't quit. Keep coming to church and stay around the people of God. And then preach to people, because when you evangelize, you talk to people, it will take your eyes off yourself, and you don't have to worry about nothing you're going through, because they're on their way to hell, and they're doing way worse than you if they don't have salvation.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a solid piece of advice, and that's a powerful testimony. Just going to see, some of those things I'd never known about you, and I think it's so crazy, like, seeing the conversion to where you're at now. You're out of everything. You minister at like majority of our 180s. You're a vital pillar in the church, and it's just awesome to see what God can do. It just goes to show that God can touch anybody. God can use anybody. He's got a powerful destiny for you. One thing I wanted to talk a little bit about that too. There's like some staples in time, if I'll say that, staples in time that have like little things that you've done that like let's say like the rap ciphers at conference. I don't know if you started this, but I know you were
the cipher.
You were at a lot of them, or like there was the How to Witness video. Yeah. There's just like several things. I wanted to like bring those up, and if you can kind of like share maybe some stories or some little details that people might not know about that. Like we can start with the How to Witness video, because that's a, for those of you that don't know, there's a video that's right. You can.
It's
tell
out there.
Yeah, there's a video that D-Block made. It's like How to Witness, and it's got like 5,000. How many views?
I don't know, a lot though.
There's a lot.
Bad, good, and
but
ugly.
There's tons of people in the fellowship that know about that. What made you want to do that?
Yeah, so that one came. Actually, it was a guy from Salt Lake City Church, and he wasn't even supposed to put it up there. I don't know what he was thinking, but he recorded it, and I'm talking and stuff, and the slipping part, was funny. It did witnessing the people, but even witnessing the people, I wasn't. It was more of a simple witness. It wasn't really like how I do now, because we grow, But at that time, I was just, I wasn't new, but I was at the place where I still needed, I needed to grow and witness and like really impact people's lives and stuff. But I remember him recording it, and then he put music in it and stuff, and then he did it good too. And then he posted it, and I didn't even know. I've been looking for him now, trying to get this channel so I can get it.
No.
I'm trying to get the royalties. I'm trying to do a part 2, How to Witness.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah. I think that's something like that is cool. We can do
and then then so he posted it. So I go to conference. So I'm at conference, and I'm just just hearing the preaching and stuff, and then the break. Oh, you the guy that How to Witness, huh? These people in China. These people in China, and then there were some people from Holland. Oh, you the guy How to Witness, and then California, then everywhere. They're like, oh, you the How to Witness. I seen that video. And then some of them like, oh, good job. And then you got those that rebel against the fellowship. They be like, oh, this ain't witnessing, this or that. But then you got the people defending me like, leave him alone. He's preaching the gospel. But yeah, it became kind of huge, man. And then people still talking about it. There's people that haven't seen it; they just seen it, and they come up to me outreaching. Like I'll be like, new people, they don't even say for 2 weeks. Hey, you the guy that? Like, what? Who are you? When you get saved? What church you go to?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But it's just cool because like little things like that go a long way. What about the rap ciphers at conference?
Yeah.
Those I've seen some of those.
Yeah, so
they don't do that anymore, do they?
They do kind of, but it was more of a, me and Miko originated it. We was the first one to do it. Some other people would try to take the credit for that, but me and Miko, we started the ciphers, and I remember we did them, and I seen something that could be used to get people that usually don't rap. I see some young guys, and I'm not sure if they know, like they rap at their ministry, at their church, they minister. So I remember grabbing a little kid. Okay, I grabbed this particular kid. He taught, I think he's like 18 now. Then he was like probably 7 or 8 years old or 6. I remember having him come and he rapped. He was 6, 7 years old rapping. And then his mom came up to me during it. She was like, thank you for doing that. Having my son do that. And that was over 16 years ago. And she still thanked me. And her son is older. He still remember that. So every time I go to conference, so that was like a platform for people that usually, they're either shy or just people to express their talent. Some people just got talent, and didn't hear people preach. Because what we hear Ogden, Utah, or anybody from Utah rapping and stuff. But when you get to hear people from other nations, parts of fellowship, Texas, California, Vegas, hearing them rap, you be like, dang, like this is happening everywhere. It's not just Ogden, but we was there, and And that's when the cipher started. It was me and Miko started that.
That's super cool. You think, since we're starting to go into a new era for our church, you know, we're coming up on our first Bible conference. You guys think you'll run it up again?
Dang. I think what I would do is I would encourage one of these young men to start it up. Maybe like Chubbs, probably start up Chubbs, or you got Cameron, you know, you might start it up. Just do some rock and roll ciphers, change it up.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to.
But we'll see.
Pass the mantle. But we covered a lot. Covered your testimony, little parts of discipleship and ministry, and some other things. Is there anything else you wanna? Any stories you'd like to share with the world?
One thing I wanna share is that evangelizing, because I think most people are either they're afraid or they're intimidated to step out and witness to people. And sometimes it's a hard thing, you know, fear grips us, you know. I think that stops us from being fruitful. And in my salvation, one thing that God helped me was to build a relationship with people in the church, and not outside our fellowship, but outside our church. Because I know I got a relationship with a lot of people in Vegas, Holland, China, Hawaii, California, Texas, you know, Idaho, all these states. I got friendships built because I step out. But then you close it in. What about your city, you know? I learned a long time ago, I need to preach to, there's people around me going to hell. And then these are individuals I'm about to name that I had some parts of witnessing to them, and then now they're still serving God. I remember Jeremy, he's pastoring in Pocatello, Idaho. I preached to him the first time we went to Provo Impact Team. I think it was Pastor Juan. Went there, preached to him. He got saved, and then he ended up backsliding and doing whatever. But now he's pastoring, his family pastoring a powerful church in Pocatello. And then I remember preaching to Archie Brown. He was in my family. My uncle taught him everything he knew, the streets and stuff, drugs and stuff like that, how to sell drugs or all of that. He was in a little clique with some of my families and his homies and stuff. And I knew Archie, you know, that was my homie, you know. But I remember I got saved, and then I remember preaching to him, preaching to all of the guys around him, all the homies and stuff. And I remember talking to Archie, preaching to him, and he was like, okay, I'm going to go to this revival. It was Sean Davis. He was doing revival. Okay, I'm going to be there. And I remember that Sunday, he was like, man, I just smoked some weed. And I was like, man, just come, you know. He was like, no, I ain't even play with God, man. And then Monday, I called him, hey, you going to come? He was like, man, I'm not lying. My vehicle won't start. His car won't start. I think he was telling the truth, though. I need to ask him again about that. But he said his car wouldn't start. He was in Layton.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I'm thinking like, but what if I would have gave up right there? We probably wouldn't see Archie. So Tuesday come around, he's at my cousin's house. I think he was at my cousin CJ house. And they was there, you know, they was smoking and stuff. I don't think he was smoking yet. I think the blunt was going around to him. And he put it in his hand, and then I knocked on the door. And he was like, hey, guys, see y'all later. He came to church that day. I remember he came that night. Pastor Sean Davis preached a message called, you're doing what you're not thinking, and you're not thinking what you're doing. And I remember Archie got saved that night. God got a hold of him, and the rest is history. Night preaching at conferences. Now he got a powerful church in India, built a church in Missouri. So... And then fast forward, Shania. So I'm working at FedEx.
Shout out Shania.
Yeah, Shania. But I remember her being in FedEx, and I remember her, giving her a flyer. She went to send a package. And I remember, here, check the church out. And it was quick, you know, and she grabbed it. And she
check the church.
Yeah. And she came, it was Misa wedding. She came at Misa wedding. I'm not sure. I know she got saved. I'm not sure if she got converted, but I know she was saved. at Misa wedding, and from there she's still coming to church and stuff.
Praise God.
But I would challenge every youth, every Christian, every believer to step out and evangelize, because that's how the world's gonna be won. The one-on-ones, because we can preach a powerful sermon and stuff, get people saved, but the one-on-one, pastor preaches a lot. That's how you build a church. And that's one thing that stuck with me, that I'm not afraid to go out and witness somebody and stuff and tell them about Jesus. Because if you want fruit, some people, they get, kind of irritated, ain't got fruit in the church. No, go witness somebody. You go tell them about Jesus, I guarantee you keep witnessing. Somebody got to come. Somebody going to come and get locked in and stuff. So
that's good. That's very important. But I appreciate you, Derrick. I appreciate you coming on, sharing what you shared, and then everything, Holy Ghost. Appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
And I leave you out with this. Stop. Wait a minute. You better make. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime, brother. And for everybody listening, thank you for listening to another episode of Testimony Tuesday. We'll see you guys next week.